let me give the floor to Michael McNutt, to our alumnus. Michael has graduated in Vienna University, and after that he did IMM program with our school. Being an American citizen, he has spent the last 20 years in the region of Central and Eastern Europe, being consulting big multinational companies on major investments in the field. He's been working for Deloitte and Ernst & Young. Currently he owns his own consulting business. He's the owner and managing director. And just as a matter of fact, it would be mostly interest for the most of the audience. He's currently advising the owners of Danubius and Schlager Radio. As you know, this well-known case, so maybe we can hear some more information about that.
Thank you.
Sorry, yes.
Well, tough to follow the good professor here, particularly because my business, actually I started about 10 years ago, specializes in investor-state negotiations, usually when things go wrong. So this is a case where a company has acquired something, done a concession, new government happens, you may know the decision maker, government changes, and then you're really in big trouble. Before that I was an investment banker doing privatization across the region, and I was very lucky to be here at a very dynamic time. So I think the professor's course frankly would be interesting for me to take, simply because a lot of what is in theory you end up having to put into practice. Now, as an entrepreneur, I have to say the dean's speech about taking your concepts from class and turning them into your own business hit home, because that's exactly why I took an MBA at CEU. As opposed to going and trying to get a flashy name on a diploma, hopefully get some intellectual stimulation along the way. The nice thing about CEU is that the people are accessible. It's nice to see some professors that I've had actually sitting in the course, and some former students where I was an adjunct, and I am an adjunct actually, at the transnational negotiation course. So when the dean was speaking about taking professors strong in theory, matching them up with adjuncts who have a lot of business experience, hopefully I will satisfy the dean's standard in that regard. One thing related to you as a student is I would say that you are the onion. And in this case, I was the onion. And the common expression is you need to peel the onion. Well, when you peel an onion to understand a problem and you try to understand yourself, you're going to cry sometimes, but at the end of it, you might have a wonderfully fantastic, tasty dish or something that you never even intended. But I took this because I wanted to be able to enable myself. I wanted to be able to take from others, because I had graduated 20 years ago, and update and refresh my knowledge base, my terminology, and understand what the world is today. So in the classes that I had, you had a nice mix of, I think, 40 different countries, terrible number of cross-cultural misunderstandings, language issues. We all spoke language, but we all didn't speak the same language. And it was a wonderful, at the end of the course, we all spoke the same form of English. But at the beginning, we definitely didn't. You mix different people, and you're going to get different results. And I think the most important thing that a potential student should understand is it's really all about you. Everybody here is supposed to help you. And if you don't try to understand, in my opinion, three basic things, which is commitment, sensitivity, and courage, if you follow those three things, I think you'll be a great student for yourself. What I mean by that is this program is what you put in is what you'll get out. You don't know me very well, some of you do, but I like to joke around a fair bit. I like to push the envelope on theory, because I think theory in and of itself needs to be applied. So I really think that it's important that you commit to engage. Too many people in too many cultures understand that you're supposed to sit in class and listen. And they'll wait for an hour and ask a question. So as far as this presentation goes, I would ask you to commit to engage. And you don't have to wait for me to move on to something. Please feel free to ask something along the way. One thing definitely that will happen is, although you probably already know everything and you know how to manage your time and you don't need anybody to teach you how to do any of that, the fact is you're going to have to. If you have an MBA student, you're going to have to prioritize. And what I mean by prioritize is not put your studies first necessarily, but put you first. And what that means is balance your time and sharpen your skills and sharpen your management skills with your other students and your other team members. Because if you don't have the courage to say your opinion, or have the courage to care about what you're learning about, then frankly you're going to leave the program with nothing except a wonderful piece of paper and a few friendships. Hopefully that won't be the case. In addition, you need to embrace the diversification. As an American, I'm often accused of being the one that comes in and knows everything. Right? Americans have a particular cultural aspect, and different countries have that profile. Well, I've been fortunate enough to live in Japan, work in Asia, work in Central and Eastern Europe, and when I was 25, I knew everything. And when I was 26, I realized I didn't know anything. And it's taken me about 15 years, yes, I'm 41, and to realize that I'm still learning. And the great thing about it is, sometimes you'll find that you can have abrasions with people. You should embrace the abrasion. Learn from why you have that difference. And in your team, don't view that person as a stone in the road or something else. Learn from that person, because frankly, they're here because they also care. And they're not stupid either. Nobody's stupid you're going to go to school with. That's the whole point of admissions, right? And hopefully you can be sensitive to that. And in sensitivity, that's where you're going to frankly understand that when you graduate from a program like this, no matter what company you work for, if you're an entrepreneur trying to deal with administration, if you're an entrepreneur trying to figure out who to hire, if you're a multinational organization, I worked for Deloitte & Touche and I worked for Ernst & Young. I promise you I won't ever work for a big organization like that again, because it was very hard for me to adapt to that corporate culture. And I didn't understand how to adapt. Now, frankly, I understand better how to adapt, and I've got more clients from those big four companies because I've learned better how to appreciate their corporate culture and not view it as an impediment. So I think that as a student, you should try to find things that you like about the things you don't like. And that sensitivity to others will help you grow. And frankly, what you learn should lead to change. Whatever you're learning, if you leave here and say, you know, fantastic, I knew that. You know, of course, well, I knew that, and well, that's good, I did that in my job, and that was great because I knew how to do that. Well, then you're frankly not doing the course very well. You're not supposed to know. And no matter what you do know, I promise you there's other things you don't know, and that's from somebody who, on occasion as an advisor, you're supposed to know everything. Right? You're not supposed to not know. But, and in my MBA program, I had to learn to say I don't know. And that was a very hard thing for me to do at the beginning because of my work. But if you learn the spatial nature of your courses, and what I mean by spatial nature of your courses on the next slide, you will get knowledge, you will get awareness of your relevance, and you will get functionality. And then, a little quote I like to say is that you will bring to light your own ideal. You will learn who you are in a different way than when you entered the program. And your predispositions about your groundedness and your stability hopefully will slightly be changed. Can't list all the courses, so if there's any courses I didn't name up here, apologies, professors, no disrespect intended. What I mean to say about the spatial nature is people tend to go into the program thinking, I'm an engineer, or I work a lot with law, so I work with law. How do I use marketing to make me better? We make us the center of those bubbles. You shouldn't do that. You should understand you're just a bubble, frankly, and you will learn at the end of the course how to move your bubble through your organization. And sometimes you are much more relevant, and you have to coordinate here on some issues, like product liability. This is probably easy, and the cost to do that, and the insurance for directors and officers and whatnot. But frankly, some things they'll move across. So you're going to realize in your function, every time you get a new job, by the way, I would suggest you do that. You figure out how relevant you are. This concentric circles showing your spatial relative importance is very important. Because everyone thinks I got promoted, and they don't understand the dynamic. So that's one thing that I think you should learn, that you can learn in the MBA, is to take your courses and apply them across. Because if you don't learn that they're not isolated courses, and yourself Because frankly, your professors can't do that. Your professor's job is to teach you this. They've got a mission, they've got to do it, you've got to get an output, but you have to help build those bridges because they're bridges you're going to need. And you have to communicate that to your professors. Otherwise, they can't read your mind. And I promise you, all the professors will be there. Maria was with me throughout the program, and Tibor, I believe he's still here. I was a pretty vocal guy in that process, and that's true. And the reason I mention this isn't about me, because I'm frankly nobody. I came from no money. I came from a family where I paid my own undergraduate in the States. I didn't come with a silver spoon in my mouth. I started my own company the first year out of school, failed 1 year later. I started another company, and then that failed. And then I realized I better go learn a few things and work for some multinationals. And then 10 years ago, I started my own company, 2 of them in fact, and I'm very happy to say that I'm still in business through a very difficult economic time. But that doesn't mean that I was smart. It means I was lucky along the way and I could apply some things. And in the middle of all of that, something quite important I learned was you have to have the courage to try. All that means is I tried. Another year, another few things will happen, and I can make another slide about all my failures along the way. And I would encourage you that when you are looking at how to apply yourself, remember, you got to be not only the onion, but you got to be the knife. And so as you go through the MBA, you will learn who you are and apply your skills and figure out what makes you work. And at the end of it, you should become that knife. And you should go around and cut your own onions. On a personal experience, just for the Hungarians here, I work a lot on what are called investor-state disputes. So for example, if a company is nationalized, or if a concession is canceled. In the case of the radio stations here, there was a tender which was lost, and I represent the 2 investors who were enemies for 12 years in the market, hate each other. So I convinced them both to hire me. They didn't know they were hiring me yet, right? First I had to network, and they both hired me, and I convinced them to work together, because if the 2 people who were disrespected, shall we say, unlawfully by the government, work together, it's very difficult for the government to fight them, because governments love to treat things unique. Right? So in the case of Danubius and Schlager, there is an element of political corruption and trafficking influence, which is the undertone. And then there is the commercial aspect, and there is the restructuring aspect. Lay off all the workers, what happens to the brand, what happens to the finance. So usually in business school we teach how to build something. I would caution you to learn how to deal with taking things apart. Also, because sometimes you need to break things down, because if you simply cling to an idea too long, you can lose. And in that respect, I think that CEU truly, and I'm not saying that because I'm an alum, I don't have to say that. I'm here because I'd like to communicate that to you, that it's not something that you should take for granted. A lot of schools don't have the ability to put you with students from different lands in a different context and frankly care about you. Because they might care about other things. And I can only say that CEU sincerely cares about not only its own brand name, but it cares about the people who will leave the program because they become the ambassadors for the program. And I hope that, frankly, I'm a good ambassador, and I can see other alum here that obviously are represented that they are also good ambassadors, so thank you also for coming to help. And I would ask if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer the question if that's all right. Otherwise, we'll continue with the program and get upstairs and you can ask me there. We good? Excellent. Thank you.